socks are off. Flying through the hallway like a disco moth. Pitching to the couch, then I loop through the fan. My tiny whoop's grooving like a funky jam. I dip through the doorway, spin by the cab, bounce off the toaster, yeah, I meant to do that. Neighbors knocking, saying, what's that sound? It's my brush motor soul train getting down. Flying through the curtain, dancing on breeze. Freestyle funk in my living room with ease. Tiny whoop magic, bumping every wall. I'm the James Brown of flight. Can't stop it all. I got LED strobes and a shag rug trail. I'm looping through the lava lamp, leaving a tail. My whoop's got rhythm, my sticks got soul. I'm the pilot of the party. On a roll, TV remotes a gate, the lamps a dive. I'm flying like it's 7.5. No GPS, no rules, no shame. Just a funky little quad in a soul train frame. Below, we fly that flow. Spread that gap. No time to nap. No time to nap. Hit that roll. Funk and control. Bounce that wall. We fly it all. We fly it all. Tiny whoop love, funky and free. We fly indoors, we fly with glee. Whoop it, loop it, groove it, move it, bounce it, flip it, funk it, rip it, fly that soul, don't lose control. Tiny whoop love gonna make you whole. I thread the needle through the vinyl stacks, bounce off the mirror ball, never looking back. My quad's got soul, it's got style, it's got sass. It dips through the incense like a blast from the past. I'm flying figure eights through the lava lamp glow, dodging house plants like a funky pro. My whoop's got rhythm, my sticks got heat. I'm the pilot of the party with the grooviest beat. I loop through the hallway, I dive by the broom. I'm the disco ghost in your living room. I hit that split that's over grandma's chair. She just claps and says, boy, you got flair. I'm flying freestyle with a velvet touch. My quad so smooth it don't need a clutch. From the shag rug to the ceiling fan, I'm the funky little fly with a master plan. The curtains dancing on the breeze, freestyle funk in my living room with ease. Tiny whoop magic bumping every wall. I'm the James Brown of flight, can't stop at all. Can't stop at all. Can't stop at all.
Hello, friends. My name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. Welcome to Sunday Q&A. Farts. It's Sunday. Thanks for coming. I feel like crap. I didn't sleep worth a shit. My particular form of mental illness has decided to attack me today. I flew a little too close to the sun yesterday. I have not like diagnosed manic depression, but something very similar. And so, like, if I do too much, I then crash. And yesterday I did too much. I had a great day yesterday, though. I chased these RC drift cars around all morning. Not all morning. Maggie and I took Florence to GGC in the morning because she's moving through high school and is looking at maybe doing dual enrollment next year. So we and also Maggie was working. She was speaking, and then I went and chased drift cars for a few hours, and then I went to Patrick's and hung out with him and Seneca all night. and that's just too much. That makes my brain go completely insane, and then when it goes insane, it crashes. And so yeah, I'm in the crash, and when it crashes, I can't sleep for shit, and it's great. It's all just great, but could be worse. We're gonna be taking a look at a bunch of RC drift footage today. I flew a ton of batteries yesterday with, hold on, I'll show you. Did that delete? Yeah, it did. Eject. With the little 65 millimeter Wonderkind. Cockroach 65 V3 frame, 0702, 32,500 kV, Weebleed motors, HQ 1.2 by 0.9 by 3s, O4 Lite in the Batwing mount that you can get on my Etsy store. And then it's the new BetaFPV cross style AIO with the 3 amp back to power, and a little ORT Micro V with the cool little Micro King cover, which you can also get from my little Etsy store. My Etsy store is over on CiottiFPV.com. That's also where you join the Patreon. Patreon is the best way to support me. You can join it for as little as $3 a month. That's like 20 cents a live stream or 10 cents a day. It's how I test more stuff. It's how I feed the children. It's how I pay for the electricity and the gas and the cable and the phones and the heat and all the other things. So support people that do stuff that you enjoy, and they'll keep doing the stuff that you enjoy. There's a whole bunch of affiliate links. What else? There's a Teespring store where you can get some fun shirts and other random apparel. Lots of cool ways to support me. Do something. Do anything. Tell your friends. Click the thumbs up button. Subscribe. Whatever. Do something rather than doing nothing. And if everybody does something, then the world will be a better place. I'm gonna start playing. There's a lot of footage to rip through here, and so I'm just gonna let it roll on this monitor, and then you can just look at my big dumb face in the bottom left corner here. So let's get this. I'm gonna bounce back and forth between full speed and half speed. The very first battery that you were watching at the opening of the stream, that was in 4K 50 frames a second, 50 instead of 60 for lower latency. And then the rest of the flight footage is 1080, 100 frames, 100 rather than 120 for lower latency. And so, yeah, I'm going to be bouncing back and forth between full speed and half speed. I really love this RC drift car chase footage in half speed. Dropping from half speed down to quarter speed is also really fun, but like at quarter speed, it's almost kind of too slow. At half speed here, it's funny. This is really close to like when I chase full scale drift cars. When you scale stuff down, it tends to move quicker and more frantically, and that is certainly the case here, right? Like full speed, it's madness. Like this is really hard to chase these guys. Incredibly fun, but very, very difficult to keep up with them. Even though they're on super slippery tires and a very slippery surface, they still have grip on the actual ground. Whereas, you know, we try to grip the air, and the air has a tendency to do this crazy thing where it moves out of the way. And so really difficult to keep up with these guys, as you can see here. When you drop it down to half speed, it's so much more fun to watch. I wish I could fly it in I wish I could fly it in half speed like this. I could do some really cool shit. But yeah, I'm going to probably play most of this flight footage in half speed because it looks so much better. Also, when I shoot this in 100 frames and then I play it back at full speed, what you get to see is a frame, and then it skips 2 frames, and then you get to see another frame, and it skips 2 frames, and then you get to see another frame. And so those skipped frames, there's a gap, there's a pretty big gap there, and it tends to look like a flip book, you know, like one of those little flip books with the little stick figure character, you know, running around. And so at half speed here, you're only missing every other frame. It show, you know, half speed is basically, instead of 100 frames a second, it's 50 frames a second. So it shows a frame, you skip a frame, it shows a frame, you skip a frame, and so it's way smoother. That's actually one of the disadvantages of flying at 100 frames or 120 frames a second, is that if you want to play that back in your edit at 100% speed, it doesn't look nearly as good because of those lost frames. Premiere does, you know, fancy stuff like frame interpolation, but it's faking it, and it's never going to look quite right. So, like, if you're flying something that's going to be played back for absolute certain at 100% speed, you should not be filming in even 60 frames a second. Like, if you're absolutely certain that it's going to get played back at 100 frames a second, you should fly it in 30. If there's any chance that it's going to be played back in anything slower, you're going to want to fly it in 60. If you're absolutely certain that you're going to play it back in 50% speed and you want to slow down even farther, like that, to get, you know, a cool little view of the little tiny person, fake person driving the RC drift car, that's when you go beyond 60. But, like, if you go beyond, if you fly film in beyond 60 frames a second and then you try to play that back at 100%, it's going to look, it has the potential of looking very juddery. It does depend, like, if you're tracking a subject that's just, if there's not a lot of motion on screen, then you can get away with it. But if you're yawing a lot, if you're pitching, if you're rolling a lot, then the stuff on the screen is moving all over the goddamn place, and that's when you'll see these big jumps. If I, like, lock in on one of these cars and I perfectly track him through a corner, not a whole lot is moving on the stream on the screen, and the subject especially is not moving. The subject is, like, you know, I'm locked in, I got the subject dead center, and so you can actually skip frames because the stuff on the screen is not moving all around, right? It's when the stuff on the screen is moving a lot that if you're going to skip frames because you've filmed it at a high frame per second and you're playing it back in 30 frames a second, that's when it starts to get kind of ugly. So you'll see when I'm down here tracking one of these here, I'll play this whole next battery at full speed, right? And so right off the rip, right there, when I'm jumping up, rotating left, rotating right, there's these big jumps, jump. But then if I settle down here and I track a subject, see, big jumps. But at some point, hopefully, yeah, see, this looks awful. It's probably not coming through as awful in the live stream as it is here. But at some point here we go. So I'm settled down and I'm tracking them. And you can almost not notice it there. There was almost a split second where you couldn't notice it because the main subject was stationary on the screen. The car wasn't doing this. Cool? So don't just always frame in the highest FPS that your camera system will allow. Think about what you're doing with that footage. And again, if you're absolutely not going to slow that footage down, don't shoot it at mega frame rate. It's just wasting... it's also wasting quality, right? Like, when you crank the frame rate all the way up, you sacrifice resolution. And so you won't be able to zoom in or zoom out without it going blocky and grainy and ugly. So, yeah, always think about... That's one of the biggest things that I realized early into flying professionally 4 or 5 years ago, however long ago it was, is that you need to think about what's going to happen to the footage. That is going to drive your decisions on how you set your camera up. So, yeah, you got to kind of think like the editor. And that's going to help you deliver the editor footage that they can work better with, so that hopefully they use as much of your footage in the final product. In the chat, you can FPV was first, Batter Jones is next, Doc Holliday, McShaky, Giddybots, Ricardo, Spaceman Spiff, Levster, Frank, Dr. Nicholas, Doc Holliday, Sporny, Druzen, Matthew Wegner, Uke, Doc Holliday, Sleepy CBR, CCAD Ryan, Ruben, Gusto, hey Ryan, Ricardo again, Gusto again, Matthew Wegner again. Who else is here? Doc Diesel, Mupshot, Uriel, Gusto, Level Up, El Chingon, Gain, what's gain green meow? Gain green yow? What is that? Same shirt as stream. Am I really wearing the same shirt as yesterday? I am. I don't have many. When I moved south from New Jersey 10-ish years ago, I moved to Charleston. Over the last 10 years of living here in the South, I've gotten rid of most of my long sleeve clothing, and I don't have much left. I actually, like, a few months ago, I realized, like, I need more long sleeve stuff. Like, it's this is ridiculous. My closet, like, in my closet, it's like, you know, if this is all my clothes, long sleeve stuff is like this, and then the short sleeve stuff is like this. And so yeah, I have a tendency to wear my long sleeve stuff 2-3 days in a row. I also don't like. I'm not a very sweaty person, and I don't really do things that cause me to sweat a lot. Right? Like, I work here at a desk. I fly drones standing up in place, barely even being willing to take the walk of shame. So I don't sweat into much of my clothes, so I get away with it. I do, you know, my partner Maggie is someone that is hypersensitive to smells too, and so if any of my clothes is even remotely stanky, she calls me out on it quick. Did I get everybody in the chat? Probably not. El Chingon, Dagul, Jeremy Flies FPV, Gusto, Cijo, Volusia, Whoopfox, Flycadelic, Level Up FPV with a $9.99 super chat. Thank you, homie. He says, keep up the good work. I will, because of generous people like you. Capital C, CCAT, hey Ryan, Vertical Access Professional, License to Drive. What's up, friends? I hope I got everybody. If I didn't get you, ask me a question. Wait, here it is. Type at CiottiFPV and ask me a question, and I'll say your name. And you'll be like, oh shit, the guy on the internet said my name. Yukon FPV says, I got the new Air75 V2 and built a 75 with those Emax 0815? Are they 08 1.5s instead of 08.2s? 0802s? Tag me again and let me know. Emax 0815. What's an Emax? Oh, wait, Emax? What's an Emax 0815? Are they making an 8mm wide, 1.5mm tall motor? That's what that sounds like. I didn't know that. That's interesting. I don't think that's a great idea, because 702 is kind of the way to go. But it's an interesting idea. 0702 versus 08 1.5. The 08 1.5 would be like a lifter kind of motor, or like a Cinewhoop motor. It's a lot wider than it is tall. The ratio of width to height is like 4:1, 5:1, 1.5, 3, 4.5, 6, 7.5. Yeah, so it's like 5.5 to 1 ratio of width to height. That's like a Cinewhoop motor. 0702, 2, 4, 6.5. It's 3.5 to 1 ratio. That's more of a freestyle motor. More options is always nice. So yeah, if that's what Emax is doing, very cool. Volusia says, hey buddy, Level Up says, I have 2 failing VTXs on 2 different Air75 V1s. Is this a common issue? It certainly is. Do you think this is why BetaFPV moved the UFL connector to the center of the new Matrix 5-in-1 AIO? Kind of, sort of, but not really. Moving the UFL, a very popular failure with not just the BetaFPV Airs, but pretty much all tiny whoops. Where the hell are all the tiny whoops? Here they are. Oh god. Ugh. All right. So a very common failure with tiny whoops that have the banana hammock style G-string canopy here is that when you put a bunch of force in like this, right, when you're nose down, you smash into the wall or you smash into the ground inverted, it pushes down and the camera flattens out and smashes into the AIO. And so if you've got your UFL port where the camera smashes into, that it's like having a spike in the middle of the AIO, and that can hit the camera and hurt the camera. The other thing though is that having the having the UFL as centered as possible. I don't think this is why, but just for the record, having the UFL as centered as possible is actually really nice, because if you run a camera mount that is flush against the AIO, if the UFL is centered, that camera mount will still be straight. If the UFL is off center, that camera will sit off center. So yeah, but it's just, that's actually me just going on a bit of a tangent. The reason what it seems like is going on is that if you look at the new generation, the version 2 of these Matrix boards, BetaFPV has removed the front mounting point. When you bang into stuff, there's a whole bunch of force that tries to taco the tiny whoop. And so the AIO is actually a structural member, right? The plastic frame is only so strong. And so the AIO, the PCB of the AIO literally functions as a part of the structure. And so when you nose into stuff, which is typically how we crash, right? It tries to bend that. And the old Air AIOs are very lightweight. One of the reasons that they're lightweight is they're very thin. So you look at like my favorite AIO ever, the Happy Model 2G4, it's heavier because it's thick. It's a big, thick PCB, and it's really strong, and it's really durable because of that. As soon as Happy Model and BetaFPV started thinning out these AIOs to try to make these things fly better, all of a sudden the receivers, the onboard VTXs started to die. And the prevailing theory is because every time you crash, you're trying to taco that AIO in half, and that's breaking the traces that are internal, right? There's these little itty-bitty thin, they're called traces, little wire paths almost. They're laminated in, but think of them as itty-bitty little wires that go all through the circuit board to connect stuff, to connect the VTX to everything else, to connect the receiver to everything else. And if you sit here and flex that circuit board over and over again, you can break those itty-bitty little traces. And if you break a trace associated with the receiver doesn't work anymore. If you break a trace associated with the VTX doesn't work anymore. One of the things where you can really tell is like all of a sudden your VTX will start acting weird. Your receiver will start acting weird. It'll just like every once in a while it won't connect. And then it'll get a little bit worse, it'll get a little bit worse, and then it'll totally die. That's one of those tiny little wires. It initially breaks, but then it pushes back together. And now it's just barely pushed back together. And so like you hit it again and it separates a little bit more, but it's still kind of touching just a little bit. And so you get this situation where like every once in a while it acts weird because it just happened to move apart a little bit. But then like you pick it up and you're like, what's going on? Like you drop it back on the table and then it gives it just enough to connect again. And then it's fine for another couple batteries. Then you hit it really hard again. And eventually those traces break worse to the point where there's no connectivity to the receiver or the VTX or whatever. And so that is the prevailing theory as to why the old school Air AIOs were so fragile. Is that they chased performance. They really chased after that lightweight performance without realizing that it would have such an effect on durability. There's some pretty cool documentation on BetaFPV's website about how they tested the new Matrix AIO. It's, they could be making it all up, or they could have actually done it. There's really no way of telling. But so far, it looks like these 5-in-1s are really good. The BetaFPV sent me the prototype of the Bind and Fly, which has been really good. This has been bulletproof. They sent me an additional one of these AIOs, which I think was just bricked right out of the box. Maybe not. On their website, they say for the ESC firmware to use 0.19.2. I hadn't read that when I was streaming, and I just went to BlueJay and I tried to flash it to 0.21, and all kinds of bad things happened, and like it won't connect to ESC2, and it's acting really funny. Usually you can't brick just... I've never seen a scenario where you can brick just one of the channels like that by putting the wrong firmware on it. If you put firmware that something doesn't like, it grenades the whole thing. And so it's actually in this build right here. And so I think that this was just a bad AIO out of the box, which happens. You know, we've all had that happen to us. If we've been into this for more than 6 months, at least once, this is the price we pay for demanding that these things be infinitely cheap, since we smash them into stuff constantly. And so I don't think that had anything to do with 0.21, but BetaFPV very kindly sent me over a replacement AIO for this guy. So if we have time on this stream, I'm going to swap this in to this. This is basically me building an Air75 V2 with a motor swap. This is the Air75 V2 frame, canopy, AIO. It's not the camera. This is a BLEEDeye camera. And then these are the Gep RC 1002 25,000 motors, which are just like the god motors for 1S builds in these 1.6 inch prop frames. So yeah, kind of sort of built an Air75 V2 before it even came out. Although apparently now this has come out. It's not on motors that are this good though. And so yeah, and this is the one with the blown up AIO. So we'll swap the AIO over. I think it'll be solderless. I think I'm going to unplug the motors and unplug the camera, unplug the VTX antenna, and that's it. Yeah, this will be a solderless swap over. So I can even just kind of like sit here, I will sit here and do this, so that hopefully by the end of the stream, this thing is all plugged in, and we can maybe even fly a battery on it, because I think I did all the setup. And like this AIO in here, it doesn't recognize ESC2, but like everything else is fine about it. So I should just be able to do a diff all and drop all this onto the new one. So yeah, I'll start unplugging and unscrewing stuff here to save us a little bit of time, I guess, while we chat, as we always do about this time. Level Up, thank you again for the support. Uriel says, have you seen Joshua talk about the Wide View Pro 04? No. Wider than the existing 04 Pro? Why would you want that? The existing 04 Pro is already like 155 field of view. Why would you want more than that? That's crazy. Tell me more, Uriel. Yuke says, yes, they came on the Emax Nanoscout, 65 millimeters. I put them on 75 millimeters. Interesting. Interesting choice for a bigger build. 08 1.5. 080 1.5. 8 mil wide, 1.5 mil tall. 0802 is a decent motor choice for a 1.6 inch propeller, 75 millimeter motor to motor build. 08 1.5 is probably going to be too small. You know what where I haven't gone in a while is the stator volume calculator. Hold on. Speaking of Joshua's stream, I still have it opened. I'm putting this link into the chat. This is super handy little website for anybody watching this after the fact. There's the website. And so if we click add new, why is it not? Okay. Yeah, so you just type the stator. You just type the stator size in here. So I typed 08 1.5, all right? And so it's telling me the surface area is 138, the volume is 75. So now I'm going to click plus for another one, and we're going to do 0702. and it's telling me that the surface area is 121, the volume is 77. So what I absolutely love about this stator calculator is it tells us what the surface area is. Usually with stator volume, we just talk about the volume. And that's pretty safe, but the surface area is also important because that's going to relate a lot to like it staying cool, basically. And what we see here tells us exactly that. We see that the surface area on the 08 1.5 is actually more than the surface area on the 0702. But then the volume is a little bit less on the 08 1.5 than the 0702. So essentially, the 08 1.5 is going to run cooler, as we always talk about, right? The wider stators, the stators with a wider ratio, a ratio that has it wider than taller, there we go, are going to run cooler, and we can that is shown right here by the surface area. But then the volume is typically going to be how much power that motor produces. So the 08 1.5 won't make quite as much power in theory. There's a dozen other things that that matter here. The thickness of the laminations, the air gap, the strength of the magnets, flat magnets versus curved magnets. It goes on and on and on. But one of the biggest factors, if not the biggest factor in how much power a motor will produce, is the volume of the stator. So yeah, the 08 1.5 is going to make a little bit less power than the 0702. The 0702 is already a motor that I would not want to run a 1.6 inch prop on a 75 millimeter motor to motor build. It's going to feel like a long range rig. Like that's the 0702 is a motor that's perfect for 1.2 inch props on 65 millimeter frames. And so, yeah, you're going to have a setup that is underpowered, but it's probably going to stay cool because of that wide stator, because of that like 5 and a bit to 1 ratio stator. The motor is probably going to stay nice and cool. So the motor is going to be very consistent. Every time you hit the throttle, you're going to get the same amount of power. You're not going to have a motor that overheats, but you're probably going to have a motor that doesn't have enough power to give you a good response time or just good full throttle power. So that's where it's going to kind of feel like a long range rig, right? Where it's very efficient because the motor is going to stay nice and cool, but it's not going to fly great because it doesn't have the grunt. Very cool. I didn't realize that was that was a motor size that existed. Good on Emax for doing that. CMYK says, yo, your footage from the new uncrashed map looks so real. Thanks, dude. Whoop Fox says, I got a Kayoumini X14 and RCN Power 1202.5, 11,500 motors on the way. Do you know if the RCN Powers come with motor plugs? I don't think that they do, but do me a massive favor. If they do, please let me know. I'm pretty sure they don't. I'm pretty sure the biggest RCN Power motor that has plugs is the 1003. Sorry, 1003. I believe 1003 is where they stopped putting plugs on their motors. But it's hard to tell because every single picture of these motors on websites, here's what happens. What I've noticed, because I've been, for months now, I've been looking for motors with plugs. What it seems to be is that if a motor it comes with a plug, in the picture on the websites, it will show the full motor wire with the plug on the end. I'm assuming that if the motor doesn't come with plugs, that they either show you a worthless CAD drawing of the picture as their images, or the edge of the motor wires are cut off by the edge of the picture. And so, for all I know, there might be a bunch more of these motors that do come with plugs, but when they took the picture, they cut the picture tight and didn't show you the plug. but I doubt it, right? That wouldn't make much sense. If it wouldn't make much sense for the image editor to crop the plug out of the image, right? So, yeah, but certainly stranger things have happened in our little insane world of FPV. UCanFPV says, that's what I did. Air75 V2 with 2G4 Ant Light and those Emax 08 1.5s. 21.7 grams. That's really light, dude. I can't believe it's that light with a 2G4. Jesus. And an Ant Light. Ant Light's not the lightest of the cameras. Good on you. Very cool. Uriel says, the Pro part was an issue. Check. He pointed out the one I ordered, the original Pro, is much more expensive. Oh, is it an O4 Lite, Uriel? Is it an O4 Lite with... No, you specifically said O4 Pro. Yeah, no, I haven't heard him talk about that. I'm not sure. Yuke says, I think I'm going to swap in the tree toppers until I can get a set of the Get Bar C1002s. Would the 1102s be okay on that build? I have a set just hanging out too. Yes, they would be great. Hopefully they're the new BetaFPV. Oh, wait, no. Okay. When you say 1102, I'm just going to assume that you're talking about the BetaFPV 1102s. If you have one of the brand new set of Beta 1102 22,000s, they're going to be great. If they're the older ones, they're going to be less great. But they'll still be pretty good. They'll still be way better than those 08 1.5s, that's for sure. Whoop Fox says, will do. I should have them Friday, and I'll let you know. Also, that Toyota Previa van is sick. I have the real thing. No way. Yeah, I'm a sucker for all things weird in the, not all things weird, but a lot of things weird in the car world, because I've just been into cars for the past, 25 plus years of my life. And so when I was there yesterday and I saw the van, I was like, yep, I'm following that for a while. What else we got going? Chef Bruno's in the house. He says, is the O4 Lite with a heat sink? He's saying he and others bought it thinking it was the Pro. Oh, okay. So a bunch of people bought O4 Lites thinking they were the O4 Pro just because it had the bigger camera. Yeah, I can totally see that. Hopefully it wasn't as expensive as, as the O4 Pro. But yeah, the O4 Lite with a heat sink and the big camera, if it's a lot cheaper than an O4 Pro, okay, I guess I get it. But if it's anywhere near the cost of an O4 Pro, that's tough, because the O4 Pro is way, way, way better. And so, yeah, that's kind of a tough sell, but hey, they're all really good. All the O4 systems are unbelievably good. Frank says $160. Ooh, that's tough. $160 is starting to get close to an O4 Pro. And once you add the weight of the bigger camera and the heat sink on the O4 Lite, it's not so O4 Lite anymore. It's just kind of O4 at that point. I don't know. I mean, well, that price is kind of right in the middle. The regular old O4 Lite is going to be I forget what it is now, but I remember when I was buying them, they were $120. Maybe they're $130 now. And then with the heat sink and the better, bigger camera, $160. And then the O4 Pro is 200 and something, 220 or 240 or whatever it is. So I guess that makes sense. That's pretty much right in between. Different strokes for different folks. The bigger Flywoo camera is not as good as the O4 Pro camera, but you're paying less for it. The O4 Lite VTX with the heat sink is not quite as good as the O4 Pro VTX, but you're paying less for it. So I guess that makes total sense. $160 right in the middle. Hanging out with Patrick yesterday, he's got two Quadmula Siren F3s built. One of them with O3, one of them with O4 Lite. The one with O4 Lite has the heat sink in it. And so we're talking about a 3-inch open prop freestyle build, 250-ish grams all up weight. That'll move an O4 Lite with a heat sink, and even if it had the big camera, all day, right? Like, so on certain setups like that, adding a little bit of weight to the O4 Lite doesn't matter at all. And so there are scenarios where that $160 setup is going to be amazing, right? The heat sink will keep the VTX cooler. It might even make the VTX more durable. The bigger camera is giving you that wider angle. And so, yeah, for $160, that's a good deal. It's just, you know, it's not for a tiny whoop. It's not for like one of these little 2-inch builds, in my opinion, right? It's for the heavier builds. Regular O4 Lite with heat sink added and wide lens camera body. Okay, yeah, it makes total sense. Yeah, for certain builds, for heavier weight micros, that's a hell of a combo, right? All right, cool. So I'm actually caught up on chat. Let me start pulling this thing apart. I don't have the... I mean, look, you guys have seen me unscrew screws before. And so, like, I could click a bunch of buttons to get the down-facing camera in the corner here, but just pretend like you're looking at me unplugging plugs, and it's all the same. I'm not going to do anything all that interesting here. And I do want to let this RC Drift footage play, because I told all these drivers yesterday at the event, yo, tomorrow at 3 o'clock over on my YouTube channel, I'm going to let a lot of this flight footage play, if not hopefully all of it. I would like to let all of it play. I'm gonna run some of it in... Oh man, that was at 25% speed. I didn't even realize it. God damn it. I was about to say I'm gonna let a bunch of this play in full speed. Alright, let's let this whole battery play full speed so that you can see what I see. This is how fast things are happening. This is why this is hard to fly. These guys are very smooth, and they're going very, very slowly compared to, you know, anything that grips. Any kind of, you know, cars or trucks that grip. But still, things are happening very quick. And you can see the gaps between the frames, the big jumps in between the frames. This is the most challenging flying I've ever done. So much more challenging than chasing the real full-size drift cars. The real full-size drift cars, it's basically like this. This is what it feels like. This is what it looks like. It's maybe a little bit faster than this, but this is absolutely what chasing full-size drift cars feels like. Chasing these small ones is so much more manic and chaotic and insane. One of the ways that you can tell that is that I am thousands of batteries into doing this, and I'm only hundreds of batteries into chasing real full-size drift cars. And I can, like, lock in with a full-size drift car and just stay with it for multiple transitions without much of a problem. Trying to do that with these guys happens, like, once maybe every battery. If I'm lucky, it's just... And it's not like I'm not trying. This is just way harder. They have changed their... they've changed the guardrails here to be flat pieces, no gap underneath. The last time I was here, they were using guardrails that were 3D printed that looked like real life guardrails, and they had that little gap underneath. Big difference in ground effect. With these full guarded things, that my thrust hammers into these flat pieces now and then comes right back, and so there's so much more turbulence now. It's so much harder. Well, it's harder, but like I really notice it when I start to get really close to these guardrails now. I can really notice how dirty the air gets. When you slow this down, that is one of, if not the best and smoothest perches I've ever done. I've always tried to get one of these perches done in the middle of a nice move like that and get the quad pointed in the direction of the other car that they're running tandem with. And I think I did a good one at the old place in the bed of the pickup truck, but that's the best one that I've ever done onto the back of one of these cars to just land on the trunk. It's really, really hard to catch the trunk and not slide off. I was very pleased with that, right there. I was fucking freaking out and screaming. So yeah, that was slick. So yeah, there's one of these batteries in full speed. I'm going to slow it down to half speed again because it's just so much cooler. I think I heard the guys saying that there were a bunch of folks from Arkansas at this event. If it's not Arkansas, maybe it was Alabama. I'm not sure. But there were a bunch of folks from far away that came to this event. Before I got there, they did a competition. I missed that because I was walking around Georgia Gwinnett College with little Florence, trying to push her into looking at the different majors and the different tables and picking up brochures and try to figure out, you know, what she might want to major in a couple years, so that when she does this dual enrollment next year, it looks like she can maybe pick something that's somewhat related. And so I missed that, but this was actually really fun. I kind of maybe prefer doing this because there's a bunch of cars out on track at once. With the competition, I've had a situation the last time I did it where like a couple of the drivers didn't want to be distracted by the drone. So there was a couple groups of runs where I just had to sit there with my thumb in my ass. When it's like an open track thing like this, there's all kinds of chaos going on, and that's super fun. And I think it maybe makes for better watching. Although the tandem runs where the whole track is free, they're kind of cool. But I've only done the one edit with those. I have probably like 15, 20 more batteries of the tandems from that last competition a couple months ago, that if I can find the time, I'll get through and do a couple more edits. I did that one edit, which is pretty cool. Although now that I say this, the edit that I did, I think I had a weird copyright issue with, and I had to pull it down. Something happened to it. I got to get it. I don't think it's actually up. I think it's up on Instagram, but it wouldn't go up. Or no, it wasn't a copyright thing. It was the length. I made it a little bit too long for the YouTube. I forget what happened, but that edit might not be up here. It's either not up on YouTube or it's not up on Instagram. I made it too long for one or the other, and I needed to recut it, and then I got busy, and that was the end of that. It just got buried amongst 7,000 other things. But yeah, there's an edit of a couple of tandem competition runs, either here or on Instagram. I believe it's on Instagram. Don't quote me on that, though. Just getting the last couple things unplugged here from the blown up Air75 V2 board that, again, I think was blown up out of the box, which sometimes happens to us. This is absolutely not a dig on BetaFPV quality control. This is a dig on FPV quality control. But look, like, to be honest, and especially with how good most of these resellers and manufacturers are about replacing these components when they are dead right out of the box, I would rather have worse, like, the quality control is not that bad. And, like, I think that we're in a good place of, like, the quality control is good enough that, like, everything isn't bad out of the box, but the quality control is not so good that we have to pay $10, $20 more for a lot of our electronics, when you consider the fact that we just clobber these things into solid objects and destroy them, right? Like, we don't fly these things in a way that they're ever going to live forever. And so paying a premium for, like, really high quality stuff doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, we maybe want to... Yeah, no, I think we're in a good place where the stuff is cheaper than it could be, but it's also, like, durable enough. Hopefully that makes sense. Look, I've got another one of these USB-C to JST dongle bastards. This will be going up onto my Etsy store if you need Actually, no, it's not. This one's gonna go into my flight bag because I realized yesterday that I did not have one of these in my actual flight bag. So, but I do have like I think still 2 of these in stock on my Etsy store. So if you've lost your JST to USB piece, I've got you covered. Or if you want an extra one so that you can put it into another place that you might need it, because there's no way in hell that you'll remember to bring the only one that you've got that lives at your desk, right? There you go. Or you can just wait until inevitably you break whatever it came with and you order another one. But yeah, there we go. That one's in that bag. That's awesome. Cool. So here's the new AIO. All I got to do is throw the grommets into it and then drop it into the frame, and away we go. I was flying pretty good yesterday, which was a miracle because 2 nights ago I also had a really hard time getting to sleep. I was doing this all on like, I think like 4 hours of sleep. I was just exhausted. On my way to Patrick's, I got 2 bottles of Snapple iced tea. That's about as much caffeine as I can. Iced tea is the maximum concentration of caffeine that I can have before my stomach absolutely implodes. And I drank those 2 bottles over the course of the night so that I could not fall asleep on my feet. And then last night I couldn't sleep again because, you know, happy days. But hey, it is what it is. Maybe I'll fall asleep at a normal human being time tonight and actually not be woken up by, you know, an annoying brain or stomach issues or jackhammers in the front fucking street in front of our house or any number of other insane things. In the chat, Frank Dr. Nicholas says, that's what she said, my thrust hammers into these. Oh, shit. That's a good one. Hey, Ryan says, is Kayoumini 3S impossible? Not really. I don't know if a 3S battery is going to fit in those 3D printed loops that are on top there. But you can always just change the size of those top battery loops, or you can just use the battery strap that it comes with. And so yeah, man, nothing's impossible. I don't know why you would do that. With how lightweight the Kayoumini is, there's really no reason, there's really no benefit to running 3S. But you know, people run 6S on 3 and 3.5 inch rigs all the time, and there's no benefit to doing that. But that doesn't stop them going on Facebook and Reddit and incorrectly saying that it's the greatest thing ever, and that everybody that's still running 4S is an asshole. So, you know, you can join the cult of idiots if you'd like. Now, look, you can build whatever you want, but then don't go and spout bullshit, right? Like so many people do. We have an epidemic of that in this country and in FPV, unfortunately. So yeah, you do you, my friend. There's nothing that makes that impossible. There are plenty of flight controllers out there that'll do that. There are plenty of batteries out there that are small enough for that kind of a rig. What I will say, though, is that you're going to be running a really little battery, right? You're going to be running like a 3S 450 mAh battery at minimum. And the batteries that I find are the best match for these 2.5 inch super lightweight builds are a 2S 450 mAh. And so a 3S 450 mAh battery is 3 450 cells, and so that battery is 50% heavier, and so that's going to be a heavy Kayoumini. It's going to have lots of throw, and it's going to be really powerful. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit overkill, but totally doable. If you were to build a heavy 2.5 inch setup, like a 200 gram all up weight, 2.5 inch setup, that's where a 3S battery is going to start to make a lot of sense. But the Kayoumini is not that. I don't think even if you tried, you could get a Kayoumini build to be that heavy. Of course, as I say that, somebody's going to go and do it, but that's okay. Again, you do you, friends. But yeah, there you go. Give me 1 second. I'm shuffling batteries around here. I was bad and I didn't. I have a Weebleed Band-Aid tin of 300 mAh old school lava, orange old school lava batteries that I only use to chase the RC drift cars. I am right now in this flight footage, I am changing the, every time you see me land like this, I'm moving the throttle expo amount up and down. I was trying different amounts of throttle expo. The midpoint was perfect, but I was moving from 30 to 50 for the amount of throttle expo. So every time you see me land, I'm changing that. The first time I landed, I changed it from 40 to 50. The second time I landed, I changed it from 50 to 30. The last time I landed, I changed it from 30 to 50. I think that 40, which is where I was, is the right number. I did like 50 a lot better than 30 though, but 50 is almost too much. 50 forces you to fly like really chill. This is me. I can tell by doing that move, this is now on 30 throttle expo. So this is a lot less throttle expo. You should see me having more of a hard time locking in elevation wise. So you're going to see me bouncing up and down a lot right now. But this also gives me like quicker throttle. It makes the throttle react quicker so I can fly more aggressively for stuff like that. Like stuff that, you know, it's okay to change height, and or I'm changing height like that on purpose to make it kind of look cool. But yeah, I have this entire tin of these Lava 300s that I only used for this. And so like I never go full throttle with them. I mean, not never, but almost never go full throttle with them. I land them at the right time. I never over discharge. Again, not never, but rarely over discharge them. I just use them for this. And so I really try hard, even though, like, for example, I just put 4 of these batteries that you're watching me fly down onto the charger set to storage, and all 4 of them in a row are sitting at 3.8 volts. So like I don't over discharge these batteries down, and when I unplug them, they bounce back up to 3.8. But I always like to put these onto the charger in storage mode when I get home to just take really, really, really good care of this particular set of batteries. This set of batteries is a little bit of a benchmark for me. I've been chasing these RC drift cars for, I think, over 2 years now. Maybe not quite 2 years, but in the ballpark of 2 years. I've been running this same set of batteries that whole time. There was a point where I was going every single Thursday and flying all of these batteries. And so these batteries have been charged and discharged a lot of times over the last 2 years, and they're still like as good as new. And so this group of batteries is like a long-term test as to if you take good care of these and you charge them right before your event, you don't over discharge them, and then you get them exactly to 3.85 when you get home, how long will a big set of Tiny Whoop batteries last? And yeah, thus far it feels like they'll almost last forever, right? Like everybody that I've ever talked to or watched some of their content that knows about batteries says that if you take good care of batteries, they will last like a long time. Nobody can ever say a specific number because they I don't know if they've been around long enough, right? Like if you really take care of them, they seem to just kind of go forever. And that seems to be what like the chemistry of the batteries tells us. But yeah, tiny whoop batteries can last a while. You just gotta take care of them. You gotta be nice to them. You don't even have to be nice to them. You just have to not fly them down to 3 volts. Like, that's really the big thing. I mean, obviously you want to try not to charge them up and leave them sitting there at high voltage charge for a week. That's not good for them. But the main way that we hurt these LiPo batteries is by over discharging them or getting them too hot. And getting them too hot means putting too much load on them, essentially. I forgot to mention the other day when I was reviewing when I was talking about the Max M2 frame, that build has really powerful motors on it. And when I was running that build on the 2S 300 mAh batteries, right, very low mAh, even like 15 seconds into the battery, right, where the battery is still almost completely fully charged, if I would go full throttle for more than like a quarter of a second at a time, it would sag that battery all the way down to like 3.6 volts. So it's sagging from like 4.2 all the way down to 3.6. That right there is the other way that you can hurt a battery. If you put a battery that's too small of an mAh on a build that is really powerful, you can sag that voltage down extremely low. The battery gets really hot when you do that, and that's another way that you can hurt a LiPo battery. And yeah, I forgot to mention that the other day. The mAh of the battery, you can think of like it's the size of the gas tank, but it's also like it also kind of functions like a surge tank. Those of you that aren't total motorsport nerds won't understand that reference, but like basically a higher mAh battery, 450 2S versus 300 2S, the 450 won't sag as far and it won't get hurt by a really powerful system. And so that Max M2 frame, I'm going to start running it on the 450 mAh batteries because those motors are just so powerful. So yeah, keep that in mind as well. That's the other way that you can damage these LiPos, is to hook them up to a quad that is too powerful, basically. There's a crossroads with all things in FPV. Yeah, there's a lot of things that depend on other things, which is why I usually kind of suggest that you guys don't do the crazy, ridiculous build that you're thinking about doing, right? The really powerful build that's super, super, super lightweight that you run this tiny little battery on. It's like, yeah, okay, it's really light and it's super powerful, but like that's going to come at a cost. You're going to wreck your batteries. The rest of the flight performance is going to kind of suck, right? There's no free lunches in FPV or in most things. AIO is down on the frame. Let's get this camera and VTX antenna plugged in here. We're going to do the VTX antenna first. I've also got a whole bunch of freestyle analog footage flying at Patrick's. I think we'll go through that tomorrow night. Tomorrow night's not a giveaway night, right? No, it's the next Monday. Yeah. So tomorrow night we'll look at a bunch of freestyle flight footage ripping around Patrick's. That was a good time. I flew almost exclusively the rig on the VCI motors, so I'm really getting used to those VCI 0702 30,000s. I'm really looking forward to going back to the Tiny Whoop 0702s to see the hopefully a big difference between the way that I'm hoping to see a big difference in the way that the throttle feels between those two different motors. That's really what I'm hoping for. That's like the biggest unknown between these different brands of Tiny Whoop motors is especially because they're wound differently. Some of them are wound, some of the stators are wound delta, some of the stators are wound WYD. And yeah, the way that they deliver throttle is a little bit differently, and so I'm hoping, I don't know how these VCI motors are wound. I do know that they feel different. So when I switched from the Moon Travelers to these, I could definitely tell there was a difference, but I couldn't like specifically put my finger on it, which I haven't been able to. Like over the years, I can always feel a difference between these motors, but I can't say like, oh, the difference is that between 20 and 30% throttle, this one motor makes more of an increase in thrust than this other motor. Like I've never been able to like totally pinpoint the difference. There just is a difference, and then there just is a motor that I like better than another motor. But I always really try to pin this stuff down so that I can give you all a little bit more feedback in that, so that you can pick the perfect motor for you on like the first shot, so that you don't have to try a bunch of different motors. Although there's a certain fun in trying a bunch of different motors, so you know, it's okay. As always, this JST 0.8 camera plug is fighting me and being a complete asshole. And so I'm just telling myself to not freak out. I'm gonna take a couple of seconds to not mess with it because I'm bordering on smashing it into 1,000 little pieces. So we'll just give it a second here. God damn it. Mopedot says, I realize these drift cars guys bump into each other all the time. Do any of them get upset that you're tapping them? I have broken the end plates off of their wings before, and they just laugh. If you ever get to chase these guys, I hope you do, because this is incredibly fun, and this is a more popular hobby than FPV, so there should be a group of these guys near all of you. When you go and chase these guys, within 5 minutes, you'll hear boom of one of these guys hammering into like a pole or the guardrails or a table or something like that at like 10 miles an hour. And these RC drift cars are extremely heavy. And so, yeah, the collisions that they have are absolutely nothing compared to the drone. What does happen is that when they hit us, sometimes they'll be like, oh, I'm so sorry, dude, I'm so sorry. And so you have to get into the habit of telling them like, nah, man, you know, my I know these look fragile and little, but like we build these things to thrash. And like what I tell them, I specifically tell them like, yo, if I'm down or like you're about to hit me as hard as you can, because it's so cool looking and you're never gonna hurt me. And so like every once in a while I'll go down and I'll be upside down pointing towards the cars coming at me, and it's my favorite thing in the world. Like they'll see it, or maybe they're just on the line, but in my head I think like, oh, they listen to me, and I'll just see them throw a big bunch of angle and wham, just nail me with the rear end of the car, and then I go flying. And it's so cool to edit that in. That's like one of the coolest little things to put in the edit. And so, yeah, it's actually the complete opposite. I'm going to now go back to trying to plug this JST 0.8 camera plug in. Let me actually try it with these old man glasses on. Try it with these readers on so I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. Oh boy, my 40s have not been kind to me, but it could be so much worse. I'm lucky that I've had 44 and a bit years. No, 43. I don't know how old I am. I was born in 81, and it's 2026. So what's that? Am I about to be 45? 2, 83, 84, 85, 86. Holy shit, I'm about to turn 45. Yeah, I'm very lucky that I've had damn near perfect vision for 44-ish years. Very, very lucky. So I should not complain. And just like that, I get the goddamn thing plugged in. Oh, you bastard! It popped out. It was plugged in, but then it came out. You little shit. Maybe it wasn't actually plugged in. What just happened, though, and what's happening right now, is such a good example of, like, one of the best things that you can do for the quality of the work that you're going to do on these FPV builds is to be able to see what you're doing. And so get the nerd goggles, get a pair of readers, get whatever you need to get to be able to see what you're doing with these absurdly small little plugs and wires and whatnot. I resisted for a long time because my vision is just barely good enough. But just give it up, you fuck, and get the goddamn readers. At the very least, get a pair of readers. Much better, though, is to get the Yocto Soon headset. It's like $25. It comes with a whole bunch of different magnifications. Use the most magnification. They're 3.5x. Yes, you're gonna look like an asshole while you're wearing them, but look, man, you fly FPV, you look like an asshole all the time. So if you look like an asshole at the bench where nobody in the public can see you, that's the least of your worries. I promise you, there's not a single person that thinks you look cool when you have your goggles on. If you still thought that you looked cool when you had your goggles on, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but at the same time, I love being the bearer of bad news because it's liberating knowing that every single person thinks you look like a complete idiot. And then you're just like, well, whatever. If they all think that anyway, so I'll not care about it. Try not to care about what other people think, my friends. It's a fool's errand. It's hard, though. It's hard. It's a tough thing. Much easier said than done. Hang on. Something just... Oh, shit. What's happening outside? It's very windy out, and something just bashed into the house, and then... What the hell? I don't know what just slammed into the side of the house, but the garbage can blew over, and there's now trash everywhere, which is just delightful. It's crazy. I was sitting here and I was like, you know what hasn't happened in a while? That garbage can hasn't blown over and thrown garbage all over the effing place. I miss it. I miss having to clean up garbage. All right, I'm getting this canopy dropped on here. Yuke says, sometimes I still feel like I'm not seeing clearly with 5X. Whoopshot says, dude, it gets worse. I still think I'm 27, but I have much more than doubled that. License to Drive says, don't worry until you get into your 50s. I'm older than Joshua. Yeah, my God, it is, it's all downhill from here. That's for sure. All right. So, again, just trying to stay as calm as I can. I'm now dealing with the BetaFPV G-string canopy, which I find to be always maddening. And so I'm just repeating the word woosah in my head over and over again. Flakadelic is 60. Good lord. You fuckers are old, yo. So sorry. No, I'm not. Life's good. Just because your body's falling apart doesn't mean that... doesn't mean shit. Not being able to drink alcohol anymore, like whatever, it's fine. It's a good thing to get out of your system in your 20s and then just never do again. Although most people can still drink in their older age. I've lost that ability. Which is fine, because good God is it expensive. Jesus. Alright, here we go, and last canopy screw. This is actually not bad. These BetaFPV banana hammock canopies after they've been bolted to a frame for a while, the plastic kind of stays in place, and they're a lot less obnoxious to deal with, which is good. All right, well, we're gonna get to see what a BLEEDeye camera looks like finally. I don't need this. I can get rid of this. I don't need this. I do keep these because I'm a hoarder secretly. Someday, having 80 of these is going to come in handy. There's going to be a day where I find the perfect thing to put in all of these that I've saved over the last decade. And I'm going to feel like a very wealthy person on that day. That day's not today. I still don't know, but I'm going to figure out a way to incorporate those into Gridfinity. How about that? Patrick has gone all the way down the rabbit hole of Gridfinity, and I'm having to exercise a lot of restraint to not just completely join in on the insanity that is the Gridfinity world. What is this charger up to? Are you not storage charging, or are you storage charging? What do you do? Oh, they're all okay? All right, cool. Yeah, pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff. I made a bit of a pact with myself with the 3D printer that I was only going to have TPU to limit myself from printing all of the crazy shit that you find on Thingiverse and on the Bamboo store, not store, but website or whatever in the software. And I've done pretty good. I do have one roll of PETG in white, but I've resisted buying anything other than just that. And I'm going to continue to try for that to be the deal here. I'm sure that it won't last forever, and I will eventually give in and buy a bunch of other amazingly cool filament, but I'm holding the line for as long as I can, god damn it. Alright, so I got a 480 mAh battery charge for this guy. Do I have another one? I do. I'll fly this in the house. It's light enough. Let's get it going here. Throw these other batteries on the charger, and we will dive into Betaflight. If there is no setup for this, I'll show you guys how I set a scratch build up. All right, but first, let's check. Let's check and see if I did all of the setup on this other AIO before I blew it up. I think I might have. I think I might have done all the Betaflight things. So that means I'm going to pause this flight footage for a second. And we're going to fire up Betaflight and just take a quick look. Or Betaflight's going to be a douche and take forever. There it goes. Alright, so let's see. Connect and ports. Well, ports isn't going to show me. Hey, look. Yep, I did do a bunch of setup. There's the craft name. That's turned on. Power and battery. I didn't do that. I did do this. Let's look in the PIDs. Yep, I threw some guesses at the PID tune. All right, so if you have an AIO that was set up perfectly and you had all the rates and the filters and everything all dialed in perfectly, and it blows up or something happens to it, and you buy another AIO or you have another AIO that you want to set up absolutely identical. You should not do this if it's a different brand or a different model or a different version of flight firmware or anything like that. You should only do this if it's exactly the same thing, because there's stuff that's going to be different. If the gyro is different, it's going to be a mess. If the version of Betaflight is different, it's going to be a pain in the ass. So you should only do this if everything is kind of the same. Arguably the easier way of doing it, but I actually don't trust doing it this way, is to come in here to presets and hit this button, Save Backup, that's going to create a file on your desktop, and then you're going to load that backup onto the new board. I find it kind of easier to come into the CLI and type diff all, DIFF space ALL, and then you hit return. I'm going to zoom out. You hit return, and this is going to fill up with all of the things that are different from the default Betaflight setup. And then all you got to do is come down here and highlight all of this. Highlight it all, hit Control C or Command C to copy it into your clipboard, disconnect, grab the identical but working AIO, in this case, hopefully, plug it in, go back into Betaflight. We can calibrate the accelerometer. Well, it'll calibrate when I do this. Go back into the CLI, and all you got to do is paste it. So Control V. Now you're going to watch it go all the way down. You're looking for red text. If there's no red text, you're totally safe. If there is red text, read it. It tells you what the error is. That has now dumped all of those differences into this. And now you're going to type save, S-A-V-E. And now this new AIO is set up identically to the previous one. And since these are the exact same AIO, I'm totally fine. You can see the accelerometer is not perfectly calibrated. That's totally normal. That's an example of a setting that you don't really want to copy over, but whatever. You just hit the calibrate accelerometer or accelerate calibrometer rather button, and away you go. It's never quite right anyway. Ports tab, that nothing changes there. Configuration tab. Oh, the craft name didn't come over quite right. Let me fix that real quick. Kelvin made me a font pack that has my logo in it. And so in order to use that for the craft name, I have to use this wacky series of it's exclamation point, quote, pound, number sign, and is the craft name. And for whatever reason, when I did that diff all, it didn't transfer all 5 of those characters. It only transferred 2 of those characters. That's a little weird. Save and reboot. And connect. So we did ports, we did configuration, power, and battery. This is a 1.6-inch prop rig where I'm going to run 450 mAh batteries, so I'm going to put 450 in there. Minimum cell voltage 3.3, warning cell voltage 3.5. That's fine. Don't mess with these. They should be set correctly. Failsafe probably came over. Yep, 3 seconds. Stage 2 here, because it's a tiny whoop. It doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt a fly. The Express LRS and 4.5 filter settings for clean build with RPM filtering, these both came over in that diff. I don't have to do these again. PID tuning, everything came over in that diff. This is usually my first pass at the sliders. This works most of the time, but certainly not all the time. Dynamic idle is disabled because D-shot telemetry is off. So that would not have come over. Here in the motors tab, I'm going to go straight from the PIDs tab to the motors tab. I'm going to turn bidirectional D-shot on. And this is what started the problems on that previous AIO. And so I'm going to grab a battery and I'm going to hook this up and we're going to see what's going on here. We should be okay here, but let's just see. So it now has battery power. Let's click this. Oh, right. I have to hit save. So I turned on bidirectional D-shot. Now I have to hit save and reboot. All right. So now we're going to see. This should be totally fine because I haven't screwed around with anything yet, but there we go. And we've got 0% error on the ESCs. I've been meaning to watch back the live stream where this AIO failed to see if when I did that, there was error on ESC2. ESC channel 2 is the one that I had the problem with. But in this case, we're good to go. We can confirm that by doing this and just ramping the motors up a little bit. What the hell's going on? Why did that turn off? Oh boy. Not a good sign. Okay. Hang on. Let me disconnect the battery. I'm going to try another battery real quick. Hold on. Oh. This is not what happened on the other live stream. For the record, I did not brick a board because I forgot to plug the motors in. That is unique to this live stream. Hold on, let me unplug this thing and and I'm gonna plug these motors in. While I'm plugging these motors in, I'll let some more of this flight footage play here from the RC Drift Car place for any of those guys that are watching, hoping to see themselves. Well, none of those guys care about me flying around the shop here. So let's get back to the chasing action. All right, let me plug these motors in real quick. Go figure. You get a lot more RPM out of the motors if you plug them in. What's happening here? Are you gonna... What are you fighting me for? Go... Are you too good for your home? Why is that not one to plug in? When these plugs are new, you do have to push extra hard on them. That's what it was. I was just being a little too gentle on these plugs. Always be too gentle on these plugs. Because, boy, when you bend one of these pins on these JST 1.25s, it sucks a bag of donkeys. Come on, get in there, damn you. Again, I can't see what I'm doing, which makes this a lot harder. But I'm just going to sit here and stubbornly try to ram these connectors into the general area that that they should be plugged in, just like my Friday nights. All right. There's 3, and we need 1 more, and then we can see what is what. There it is. All right, cool. The motors are actually plugged in. Let's go back into the motors tab. And, like, we're going to be fine here. This is, you know, the chances of 2 of these things being bad in a row is slim to nil. But let's just see. Plug it in here. We got battery power. We got ESC beeps. Motors tab. I understand the risks. The props are definitely off. Motor 1 is twitching. Motor 1 won't spin up. What the hell, bro? We're not showing any error. Oh man. And I have not changed anything. We're on D-Shot 300. 12 motor poles, bidirectional D-Shot. Let's try this. We're going to turn off bidirectional D-Shot. We're going to save and reboot. And we're going to see if motor 1 still twitches. Motors. Understand the risks. Motor 1. Okay, motor 1's still twitching. Let's try this. We're going to try to really slowly increase the power. Sometimes that'll get it to spin. Nope. Okay. So, first troubleshooting step, in this case, where you've got a fresh AIO and motors that should be fine, is going to be to move the motor. Blame the motor. And so I've got motor 1 that won't spin. Motor 4 will spin. And so I'm just going to switch them. I'm going to switch motor 1 over to motor 4 over to motor 1. If the problem stays where motor 1 was, that means that's a problem with that ESC channel number 1. If the problem follows the motor and moves up here, then the motor is the problem. The reason I'm doing 1 and 4 is because this way I won't have to pull the props off. And so, because both of those use counterclock or clock, I forget, propellers. Depends on what if your props in or props out anyway. So, motor 1 and 4 are unplugged. Let's take a couple screws off. Again, while I'm doing this, I'll let more of this flight footage play. And so, yeah, let's see. Let's see if the problems that I was having on the previous board started. Well, see, the problems were on motor 2, so this shouldn't have anything to do with it. But still, this is a very quick and easy way of troubleshooting this to figure out if it's the motor or the ESC channel. If we figure out here that it's the ESC channel, we're going to do some other stuff. But this is just the really quick and easy first step for troubleshooting this before you go diving into BlueJ and updating BlueJ and changing all that nonsense, right? Like, check the mechanical system first. That's what we're doing here, is we're checking the mechanical system. Motors have a nasty tendency to fail, and so blame the motors first. Always blame the motors first. Actually, blame the props first, but in this case, the props can't possibly be the problem. So blame the motors first. Always, always, always. In a scenario like this. If you've got like oscillations or jello or things like that, blame the props first. And then blame the motors. But yeah, a problem like this couldn't possibly be propeller related. Well, unless if the propeller was bent down really far and it was hitting the arm or the duct support, it could be the problem, but I would have seen that. Like, I was looking right at it, and that was not the case. So yeah, always blame the mechanical system before the software. It's usually the mechanical system anyway. Most problems are on these things are mechanical. Most troubleshooting that we do is on the software side, especially if you go to Facebook and Reddit and ask any of those numpties. All right. Motors are swapped. Motors are plugged in. I'm making absolutely sure that I get these motor plugs all the way seated, because that could be the problem. That was the first thing I checked when it started twitching. And so now let's see. We're going to plug it back in. And make sure that plug is seated all the way as well. All right. We're going to pause this. Bring Betaflight back up. We're going to hook up battery power. And let's see if the problem is still there. Motors. I understand the risks. Master slider up. Problem is the motor. It is now on motor 4. Motor 4 is now twitching. Awesome. That is really, really, really good news. I'm going to wiggle the wires around on motor 4, and that's probably going to fix the issue. I should have done that in the first place, and that did fix the issue. I wiggled the wires around at the motor solder pads. A minute ago, I wiggled the wires around. I reseated the plug. So the plug's not the issue. The solder joint in here is the issue. Which means that one of these wires is about to break. One of these wires, on these 30 gauge wires, there's 8 individual strands. 6 or 7 of the individual strands are probably broken, and there's only one left. And so, what time is it? 4:40? I'm going to repair this motor so that you guys can see that process. A little bit of a soldering tutorial for you. So motor 4, pull the propeller, unscrew the motor. And we're going to do this as quick as we can here. These motor wires are too long anyway, so that's totally fine. We're going to do this repair the right way, and we're going to shorten it up quite a bit. Nah, we're not going to shorten it up quite a bit, but we've got plenty of wire length that we can shorten it up without a problem. Soldering iron is getting turned on to 700 degrees C. Fahrenheit, rather. This is the OmniFixo here. The best way to hold this stupid, awkwardly shaped little stuff when you're trying to work on it. For motors, I clip it like this. Against the bell and then against the stator base. And it holds it really, really nice. And then you can... Actually, the little piece of... shrink tubing was just sliding off, and then it wasn't holding it quite right. So we can do that. If you can also put a second one on to hold like the stator itself. That'll hold it even more secure. The OmniFixo is nice because you can kind of rotate it around on the desk, so you can move the work to you instead of moving yourself around the work. I'm gonna put these nerd goggles on so that I can see what the hell I'm doing. And so now we've got a piece of shrink wrap here. We're going to remove that. Usually this shrink wrap protects these, and as I removed that shrink wrap, the wire broke off. And so there we go. There was our problem. The far left wire has broken off, even though it had the shrink wrap on it. The shrink wrap really does help these little motor connections here, but every time you crash, these take a hell of a beating. And so this can still happen. I'm going to cut this shrink wrap off here because I'm going to put a new piece of it on. And come on. So that was our problem. That has nothing to do with the previous AIO letting go, because the problem with the previous AIO was on motor 2. And even if I had the AIO in there rotated 180 degrees, it doesn't matter. That would have still been, this would have still been motor 1 or motor 3, no matter what. And so, yeah, there we go. So we're going to desolder all 3 of these. I'm going to use just a little bit of flux paste here. And so we'll desolder all 3 of these. We're going to cut these down, we're going to strip them, and then we're going to resolder them onto these obnoxiously small little pads. Clean the tip of the soldering iron when you remove it from the stand, not when you're putting it back into the stand. And with a joint like this, I can just lay the tip of the soldering iron across all 3 and then pull outwards. By pulling outwards, I've taken any little strands of wire from that one that broke off, because I can see the silicone is still here and there's no strands of wire afterwards. So the strands of wire were stuck to the pad. Now they're stuck to the tip of the soldering iron. I am going to clean the tip of the soldering iron now to get those little strands of wire off of it. And just to be sure, I'm going to reheat this left pad and I'm going to pull outwards one more time to make sure that if there's any other strands there, that I'm getting rid of them. And so now we're fine. There is just enough solder on those pads that I don't have to add any more. So I'm going to assume that all 3 of these wires have taken a beating. And so I'm going to go like 2 millimeters down the silicone and I'm going to cut them off. The joint at the motor and the first couple of millimeters of the wire, that's what does the majority of the bending, and that's where these things break the most often. So when you're doing work on these motors, chop that bit off if you have enough length on the wire, and you'll get a lot more life out of this next repair that you've done. Don't just fix that one wire and put it back on there, because there's 2 right next to it and they're just going to break. So right now is the best time to put the shrink wrap on here to protect it, because if you wait any longer, you'll definitely forget. So we're just going to grab, I think this is the size that I usually use, right? Let's see. Nope, it's one size up from this. Do I have a little scrap? I don't. Nope, that ain't it. All right, hold on. Get the actual kit out here real quick. I think it's this kit. And it's this width, right? Or is it this one? It's this one. Okay. Always use the smallest shrink wrap possible so that it will, especially like this is a pretty wide pad and then these wires are bundled together and they're kind of narrow. So if you use the smallest shrink possible, it'll shrink up a lot extra. You can get shrink wrap that is different ratios, 2-to-1, 3-to-1. 3-to-1 will shrink 1/3 of its size. 2-to-1 will only shrink to a half of its size. I like the 3-to-1 stuff. You can also get shrink wrap that has adhesive on the inside. Kind of cool. It tends to be a lot thicker. So yeah, different strokes for different folks. Get this little bit of shrink wrap on here. Drop it all the way down by the wire. But all the way down by the plug, rather, so it doesn't get hot. And so now we're going to separate all 3 of these, and I'm going to strip these. No, I'll use the... No, you know, I'm going to strip these with my fingernails. Your fingernails are the safest ways to strip these wires. The biggest problem with these wires is each individual strand eventually breaks. If you strip these wires with your fingernails, there's no way that you can use a piece of metal to nick one of those 8 strands. And so there's a chance that well, I don't remember if I re-soldered any of these motors yet, but there's a chance that I used the flush cutters when I stripped these wires and I nicked 1 or 2 of the strands of wire, and then another couple strands broke, and then it caused the issue that we're having to now here repair. These itty-bitty wires also, it's hard to get a wire stripper that really works all that well for these incredibly small wires. And again, the wire strippers use metal, and so, like, yeah, they're a product to do a job, but, like, nothing's perfect, and so those wire strippers have a chance of weakening these wires as well. If I'm in a hurry, I'll use the flush cutters because I've done thousands of these over the years. But still, using your fingernails is a better option because they're made of a material that's not harder than metal, and so they can't cut or nick metal. Now we're going to tin these wires. We're going to put a little bit of solder on the tip of the iron. We're going to hold that onto the bottom of the wire, and then we're going to push the solder through the strands on the top. It's also going to push the wire into the blob of solder. And you'll see when it all flows together. There we go. All we're doing is loading up the individual strands of wire with some extra solder. So right now, we've got a bunch of solder on the tips of the wires, and then we've got a bunch of solder on the pads. We don't have to add any more. Now all we have to do is basically weld the wire to the pads. And all that means is holding it nice and steady, and then using the tip of the soldering iron to deliver heat rather than controlling the wire. You want to control the wire with your left hand, and you want to get this wire perfectly centered on the pad in a way that your hand is not shaking. And so sometimes that means you got to move this around. What I always do is get the bottom of my hand flat on the desk, because then my hand is nice and stable. If I hover my hand above the desk, I'm always going to shake a little bit, and that's not good. So my left hand, I'm going to move sort of my fingers around. I'm going to move my hand around. I'm also even pushing my knuckles up against this guy. Multiple points of contact. For anybody that shoots, this is called bone support in shooting. It's the same exact thing. Get bone support so that you won't shake. Soldering iron out of the stand, directly into the little cleaner. Nice clean tip. You could tin the tip. I'm not going to because I don't want to add any solder here. Hold the wire perfect. Deliver heat with the tip of the soldering iron. Actually, I don't have quite enough solder on here, so I am going to pick up a little bit of solder on the tip of the iron. I'm going to use the little OmniFixo just to hold this bit of solder here. I'm going to get myself situated here again with my left hand so that I'm ready to hold this wire in place. And then I'm just going to drop the tip of the soldering iron onto the solder until it smokes. The smoke is the flux burning off. I've got a little tiny blob on the tip of the iron. And now, oh shit. One of the cool things about solder is that solder travels towards the heat. This is an itty bitty little joint that we're working on here. And what's happening is when I remove the tip of the soldering iron, the solder is chasing and it's making like a little mountain of solder. We don't want that. One of the ways to get around that is to put flux on it. Typically that happens because there's not enough flux. The flux is burned off. You're not seeing any smoke anymore. And so I'm going to put that back on there. I'm not going to tin the tip of the soldering iron. I'm just going to rework this is what it's called. So there's a bunch of flux on there. I'm going to drop this down. Everything's going to flow together. And now because there was flux, it's a nice smooth joint now. And we're good to go. It's not chasing the tip of the soldering iron. When you have enough flux on there, the tip of the iron and the solder joint equalize in temperature. And then there's no reason for the flux to try to come with the tip of the iron when you're removing it. Because the pad is just as hot as the tip of the iron. So the solder just stays where it is. If you've got no more smoke, you've got no more flux. And in that case, the tip of the soldering iron is hotter. And so the solder is going to try to come with the tip of the iron rather than staying on the pad. And you're going to get that ugly little Hershey Kiss looking thing. And that's all three. I did those second two kind of quick. I followed the exact same process as the first ones. And we've wound up with three relatively clean joints. If I spent a little bit more time, I could get these a little bit better, but that's good enough. Nice and smooth. No big mound of solder. This camera's going to continue to be an asshole, but there you go. Job done. We cut off the extra little bit of those wires. So we've now got a fresh bit of wire. I've also got this shrink wrap on here now, so I'm going to slide this up, and this shrink wrap just covers up that entire joint to give it a little bit more strength. What the shrink wrap does is it grips down on the PCB, the little part of the motor that has the pads on it. And then when you accidentally bump up against these motor wires, instead of bending the wires, you push up against the shrink wrap itself. And there we go. Shrink this down the rest of the way. The shrink wrap does make a big difference, but like it's just shrink wrap. You know, the wires can still eventually break, as we saw. But boy, does it help. All right, we're going to do a little bit more of this flight footage here. Should be coming towards the end of it. And I'm going to throw this back on the quad, and we will not have a twitching motor anymore. In theory. Get back here. All right. Fragnicola says, could that loose/broken motor wire maybe be shorting, causing any of the problems you had on the previous AIO? I didn't catch why you swapped AIOs. I don't think so. The previous AIO, I tried to flash it to BlueJay 0.21, and in the process of doing that, one of the ESCs started giving me an error, all in the software. And once that began, it never ended. And I think that it was that I might have had an error in the first place. That's why I was, when I first hooked this up, that's why I was looking in the motors tab for the error percentage. So I don't think. Also, it was on a different channel. It was like I was saying 10 minutes ago. It was ESC channel number 2 that I was having all the problems with on the previous AIO. On this one, it was 1 originally, and then I moved it to 4. Even if I had the ESC rotated in here, it wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have had it rotated 90 degrees. I would have had it rotated 180. And so, yeah, it was on a different channel. But the problems were not motor twitching. The problems were I flashed it to BlueJay 0.21, and all of a sudden it couldn't see all 4 of the ESCs. It was a completely different issue. So we're going to hook back up to Betaflight here. I'm going to put a battery on this. I'm just going to pull Betaflight onto the other monitor. There's really nothing to see. Connect. Plugging in the battery. Motors tab. Motor direction. This is what I was hoping to do when this all started. Put the propeller on just so that I can see what direction it's turning a little bit more easily. Wizard, start and spin motors, and the motor is no longer twitching. So motor 1 is spinning the wrong way. Let's reverse it. Motor 2 is spinning the wrong way. Let's reverse it. Motor 3 is spinning the right way. Motor 4 is spinning the right way. Stop motors. Close. Now I'm going to turn bidirectional D-shot back on, because that was not a part of the problem. Reboot. And back into the motors tab. I'm just going to check it one more time. Make sure it's still spinning. All right. So now we start to get into the area that bricked this thing previously. Which is when I updated BlueJay. And so, time is it? 4:57. We're going to do this quick. On the products page for this AIO, which is brushless flight controller, and then here it is. It's obvious because it has no mounting hole on the top. If you come here and you scroll almost all the way down, you'll see some red text. Nope, it's not red. Look for the BlueJay logo here. With BB51 ESC solution, Matrix 1S brushless flight controller is based on AX5 96 kilohertz 0.19 hex. It supports D-Shot 300, 24, 48, 96. It comes with 96 kilohertz, which I do not like. That sacrifices a lot of braking performance. It specifically calls out 0.19. It doesn't say don't put 0.21 on here, but it says that it's based on 0.19 hex. And then it says do not flash the firmware with a shorter interval. What that would mean is changing this. The AX5, if you change this to AX0, that's a shorter interval. This digit after the 2 letters is the gate timing. You would never do that. Every once in a while somebody does that by accident, but you would not do that on purpose. But it specifically says 19.2. On the previous one that bricked, I hadn't read this. I went into Betaflight. I selected the newest version, which was 0.21. I left it on AX5. I flashed it, and it exploded. It just stopped working. So what we're going to do here is I'm not going to do that this time. I'm not going to put it on 21, but I am going to get it off of 96. And so what I'm going to do is click on this link, I think it is, download the BlueJay firmware. Please choose AX5. Okay, so we've got 2.1, we don't want that. 2.1, we don't want that. Keep going, keep going, keep going. 2.1 RC1, nope. 2.0, nope. Here we go, 0.19, 0.2. That's what we want. Scroll down a little bit. Assets, 974 assets. These are all of those different gate timings and all of those different types of MCU that control the ESC. I believe they're MCUs. Oh, fart. Did we just, did I just lose the, oh, Christ. Hold on. BetaFPV Air V2. And so just to refer back real quick, look for the little picture of the BlueJay. Nope, that's the wrong thing. Electronics, brushless, very first one. Scroll down, picture of the BlueJay. What we want is AX, get out of here. AX5, that's what's important. AX5. We're changing the 96, but we need AX5. Ready? AH, AX. Here's AX0. This is if you want to blow it up, you use this one. That's not what I did. AX10, 120, 15, 20. They're in a weird order. Here we go. AX50, AX5. All right. AX5 96 is what's on it now. AX5 48 is what I want. Click it. I think it'll just automatically start downloading it. Yep. Download it to downloads. AX5 48. Oh, I already have it in there. Of course I do, because I was trying to fix this. But there you go. You download that. That's the one that, in my opinion, you should be using. And so now we go to ESCconfigurator.com. We power up the quad, which it already is. Select serial port. You cannot be connected to Betaflight. Select the Betaflight port here, though. Connect. Connect. It is connected to Betaflight. I got to disconnect it over there. Okay. Let's just refresh the website. Connect. Here we go. Read settings. Here we go. And now, here's your double check. Your double check is right here. AX5 BlueJay 0.19 96K. Look at all four. ESC2, same thing. ESC3, same thing. ESC4, same thing. Now we want to flash all four of these. So down at the bottom, flash all ESCs. Click this. What I could do at this point is select version 0.19.2, select PWM frequency 48. This should work, but BetaFPV gives you those links. They're pulling from the same place. This absolutely should work. Click flash and you go. If for some reason you want to do it the harder way, flash local firmware. Go to your downloads folder where you downloaded it. Find it. AX5 48, 0.19.2. Open. Away it goes. Last time I did this, instead of choosing 0.19.2 in there, I chose 0.21. And either it was already broken or that bricked it. I really doubt that that's what bricked it. But I couldn't get a clear, defined answer from BetaFPV. And so I'm giving you guys all the info that I've got. There is not that much of a difference between 0.19 and 0.21. So just do this because it's going to be all right. And if you don't brick the damn thing, it's going to save you a lot of headaches. So yeah, just use 0.19. If you want to do the insane method that I just did, it doesn't take that long. If you want to just go in there and instead of selecting 0.21, select 0.19.2, it should be the exact same thing. This website is pulling from those assets in that GitHub, I believe. And so should be all right. Some of the settings that I change in ESC Configurator, I move the motor timing from medium high to medium. Chris Rosser did a bunch of testing and found that medium is a little bit better for the motor timing. I turn the beep strength and the beacon strength up a little bit, and then I change the beacon delay from 10 minutes to 2 minutes, so that if you leave it plugged in and it's been 2 minutes, it starts beeping, saying like, hey, idiot, I'm plugged in. So 2 minutes, I turn these beep strengths up to like 120 or so, just to make the ESC beeper a little bit louder. And medium timing. I might need to move these startup powers. I'm just going to preemptively move these startup powers up a little bit. Don't do this. This is me being lazy. Try it, and then if you don't have to move them up, don't move them up. But I'm in a little bit of a rush here. Right settings down here on the bottom right corner. And that's going to write those changes that you just made. And now we're good to go. This thing, in theory, should fly. Let me connect back to Betaflight real quick. I'm going to spin the motors up. Make sure that all of a sudden there's not an issue. Nope, good to go. Motors are spinning. Let me just check the rest of the setup here. OSD is good. Video transmitter is on until first arm. 100 milliwatts, race band 8. Yeah, I did a full setup on this thing before it bricked. So disconnect. Oh wait, no, hold on. Let's see if the transmitter's bound. Receiver tab. Nah, it doesn't look like it's bound. So let's see if the bind receiver button works in Betaflight. I can't remember the last time it actually worked for me. Oh, arm switch is on. Hold on. All right, it claims that it's binding right now. It won't. Yeah, all right, it's not bound. So let me unplug it and plug it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Bind mode. Binding. There we go. We're bound. Everything looks good. Aux 6. Are the modes set? Modes are even set. All right, we're good. This will fly. Well, in theory. Let's find out for sure. Unplugging the battery. Unplugging the little dongle. And let's fly a way too heavy build in the house. This is basically an Air75 V2 with better motors, with the best motors that we've found for this style of build. And is this going to work? Ooh! Why don't we have video on there? Let me cycle the power real quick. Oh, it might be in pit mode. Hold on, let's see. Ooga! Ooga dooga. Usually I get... Hey, there it is. Oh, the camera's upside down. No. No! Oh, no. Oh. Well, yeah, it's already after 5 o'clock. I got shit to do tonight. God damn it. To get the camera out of there is a pain in the ass. Hey, here's what a BLEEDeye looks like. This is the normal test that we do with all of the cameras. I'm holding it roughly where we usually hold it. What I can tell you is it looks pretty wide angle. The toolbox looks really far away. So yeah, this reminds me a lot of the Tiny Whoop pinch cam. The middle of the frame seems to be it appears far away, but then on the left and right, like on the right side of the frame there, you see how you can see the red and purple light. That's pretty normal. On the left side of the frame, I can just see the edge of this monitor here. I can't see the second monitor. Remember that. Ready? So remember that field of view. Remember the way that the toolbox looks. And for all of you patrons, you have access to the Google Docs folder where these images all lie. Look, see how much closer the middle of that toolbox looks. This is a shitty camera. This is a BI camera. Look on the right side of the frame. On the right side of the frame, we've got fuck out of here. We've got the door and the red and purple light, and then we've got the edge of the monitor. So the BI frame is actually a wider field of view, but you notice how the middle of the frame, the toolbox, it looks kind of bigger. Check this out. CO3 camera, same kind of deal. We got the red and purple light on the right. We got the edge of the second monitor on the left. So the CO3 actually has a little bit wider of a field of view. But look, the toolbox looks bigger. At some point, I'm going to hit the Tiny Whoop pinch cam. There we go. Look at the Tiny Whoop pinch cam. Red and purple light. We got a little bit more of the door here. See how the toolbox looks farther away? Isn't that interesting? Look at that. Well, that's a bad comparison. That's the Runcam Nano. Yeah, that's interesting. A lot of people love that. A lot of people love the Tiny Whoop pinch cam. It looks like the BLEEDeye cam is very similar in that the center of the frame is like a little bit farther away. I don't know. Maybe there's something about that that's good for racers. For me, though, shoot and get, because like, I guess the racers are always turning, and so they're not really looking at the middle of the frame. You know what I mean? They're looking at the sides or the top. For me, the gaps that I shoot are usually like in front of me, so I want more. I don't want the middle of the frame to be zoomed out. If anything, I want the middle of the frame to be zoomed in, which is kind of what the Runcam Nano 3 does. And so, yeah, I don't know if I'll like this camera, but once I get it flipped right way up, I'll fly it, and I'll let you guys know. I mean, we had a 50-50 shot of getting in there, right? Daniel says, guessing footage is 75mm whoop. Question, is it analog or digital? Also 1S or 2S. If you're talking about all of the drift car chasing stuff, that was flown with this very custom kind of setup. This is my Batwing mount that you can get from my Etsy store. Cockroach 65 V3 frame, because it's got these hooks that this mount works off of. The camera needs to be all the way up front, as low as possible, so that when I'm flying, it's the lowest possible point. That's how to get that really good footage down on their door, close to the ground. I've been refining this rig for about 2 years now. I've tried absolutely everything, and this setup is just so good. 0702 32,500 kV Weebly motors, HQ 1.2 by 0.9 by 3 props, O4 Lite, the BetaFPV 1S AIO with the 3 amp Beck, the one that they put in their O4 setups, ORT, micro V antenna. That's about it. This thing's a monster. I've had so many different iterations of this over the years. This is absolutely the best setup. Yeah, super fun. Super fun. The most challenging flying that I've done in a decade, chasing those RC drift cars. It's absurdly difficult. FPV says shrimp wrap. Whoop Fox says, I'm 31, but the years of BMX has me feeling like I'm 45. Whoops are gentle on my knees. Hell yeah. License to Drive says, don't worry. Oh, no, we got that. So I talked about that one. I'm caught up there. Uriel says, this is like ASMR for me. Nice. Capital C says, oh my God, done that before. Cole says, pinch cam looks more rectilinear. That basically means there's less fisheye, less like rounding, more straight lines. The O4 Lite camera is an example of like a completely linear. It like every single straight up and down line is perfectly straight up and down. Every single horizontal line is perfectly horizontal. There's no bend. There's no nothing. Yes, it has less field of view. having less field of view is what happens when you have a very linear camera. I love the way that this camera looks chasing those RC drift cars. It looks like I'm chasing the RC drift cars with like a big cinema camera, because the cinema cameras are the ones that have lenses that are very linear. Our FPV cameras typically have these wild fish eyes, and everything looks like you're looking through the peephole in your door. Frank says, I challenge you to fly it as it is. All right, we'll try. Levster says, have a great Sunday night, all of you, and CiottiFPV. Peace. All right, we're going to do this. This is going to take like 3 seconds for me to just bash it into the ground 14 times, but we'll do it. This will be the last quick thing we do. It's a good idea. All right, let's see how long before I vomit. Here we go. Thanks for hanging, friends. I'll be back tomorrow night at 10. As always, come on back. Go to CiottiFPV.com if you like this stuff and you would like to see it continue. Buy some of my time on Fiverr if you have a lot of questions and want a lot of answers. And I don't even know where to begin. I have no idea what to do here. Okay, that's real weird. So I'm just gonna take off and I'm just gonna push forward. Oh no, it's so it's actually oscillating a little bit. So let me just back the tune off. Alright, so now I have to turtle mode while upside down. What's happening? Is it not turtle moding? There we go. Oh my god, it's upside down again. Okay, so if I just go up and I push... Oh, okay. Let's give it another... Let's give it 30 more seconds. It'd be one thing if it was just left and right being reversed. Oh my god, I can't... It's completely impossible. Oh! I can't do anything. All I can do is just push forward. Oh god! Alright, I'm gonna not demolish this rig. It's also oscillating in a weird way. It's not happy. Something ain't right. Yeah, nothing makes sense because up is down and left is right. It's completely nonsensical. You can I think Joshua talked about it a while ago. You can reverse left and right on the transmitter, and that's like a thing. You actually have some chance, but up being down is impossible. Let me just spin these motors up. Maybe one of these props or one of these motors are banged up. Nope. Yeah, okay. So something's going on. There's an electrical noise problem, or there's a frame resonance problem. Something's not right. Luckily, this AIO has black box, so I'll do a black box log when I get home tonight. See if I can see what's going on, and hopefully get it running tomorrow. Get some flight footage for you for tomorrow night's stream at 10 o'clock. Thanks for hanging, friends. Matthew Wagner says, camera spring mount would be a fun challenge when unicyclists gather together at a multi-day event. Everyone brings their insane contraptions to try. Nice. All right, people, be good. Thanks for hanging. I'll see you tomorrow night at 10. Tip your waiters and waitresses. Here's the last little bit. I don't know how deep into this footage I got. Flight file number 16. Oh shit, okay. There was only 2 more flight files, so there's only 2 extras. To be honest, I started flying like shit towards the end of the day yesterday. It was one of the reasons I left when I did, because I was just not flying well. And so we got through almost all the flight footage. Love you, bye! See you tomorrow night.
Yeah. Out in the yard where the grass grows wild, CiottiFPV's goggles locked, grinning like a child. Teddy spaghetti's, fur flies, and jet wash dreams. Yeah. Chasing small whoops like a dog possessed fiend. Eyes on a neon blur, hard in the chase. Bit fuzz and prop spin all tangled in place. Yeah.
Four-legged rebel with a rotor stir tail in the circus of the sky, they never fail. CiottiFPV, Teddy sparking it, dynamic duo kings barking at the breeze, throttling that top speed thing, zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a 2D smile. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Shotties on sticks, Teddy's on paws, side by side legends breaking all the laws. Through the kitchen over couch scale terrain, backyard mayhem in their flight domain. No ground too sacred, no loop too tight. Fuzz fuel fury ignites the night. When pilot and pup lock eyes on the prize, every whoop they conquer is a fresh cut surprise. Yeah. Yo, Shotty behind the sticks, Teddy's leading the pack. Prop guard missiles unleashed, never looking back. No leash, no map, just freestyle mic. They on the dog drone streets every day and night. Said whoops, hitting low, gotta nail the dive, Teddy. Push throttle up, feel the beast come alive. I see the neon arc, got the sticks locked in, Teddy. Yeah, let's rip this loop, ride the roar of the wind, Teddy. Yep. Yeah, CiottiFPV, Teddy's fucking it, diamond and duo kings, barking at the breeze, throttling that top speed thing, zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a 2D smile. Teddy's fucking barking at the breeze, throttling at top speed thing, zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a 2D smile. Yeah, when you hear that bar cut the rotor hum, you know Ciotti and Teddy's mission's just begun. FPV's fur-faced legends, legends singing loud. Yeah, Teddy spaghetti and CiottiFPV always proud.